Hello, my name is Jade and today we will be discussing the evolution of Dyer. I very nearly forgot what this book is called. Great start. This is the second book in the Unbecoming of Dyer trilogy. Is that what it's called? The Dyer trilogy. I have a video all about the first book. I'll link it down below. If you have not heard of this trilogy, then maybe check that one out first. I liked it. I liked this one more than I liked the first one, definitely. I'd give it like a 9 out of 10. I don't know, there's just something about the story that was preventing me from top tiering it. Just wasn't as blown away as I would be with like a 10 out of 10. But it was good. I had a lot of fun reading it. So I've ordered the first 2 books in the Jewel Confessions, and I thought they weren't going to get here for like another week or 2 from now, having finished the second book. And so I was like, I can't read the last book in like 2 weeks, so I had to like drag out this reading experience. I could have finished it in 3 days had I not had uni work, and those books weren't going to take so long to get here. I now know that they're not going to take quite that long. They're going to be here a little bit sooner. I'm hoping to just like continue on from the Retribution of Dyer straight into the No Jewel Confessions. Although I think the last book won't come out for like another year or something crazy, like over a year. So if I do marathon straight through these 5 books, I imagine that come the end of that 5th book, what will I do with my life? Because I don't know. I read it in like a week though. That's still pretty quick for me. Considering I read the first 2/3 of this book in 2 days, I'm loving this trilogy. I don't want it to end. And I've talked about how I don't like marathoning trilogies and stuff before. I think how I don't love it because it just goes by so quickly and I don't remember it as well. I don't remember most of the books that I've read, to be honest, at this stage, because it's been so long since I've read them. But I'm thinking maybe because there's 5 books, it's not just a trilogy, and then I have that huge wait until the last book anyway. I'm hoping that won't happen here. Cover's pretty. I really like these covers. I like how macabre they are. I don't know if they suit the tone uber well because they're quite snarky and fun at times. And these just look really dark. But maybe that's because I didn't read them with the dust jackets on. They are cool. I do like them. I think as far as covers go, they're good. And they do fit the tone because they are creepy. This one's blue. My nails were silver in the first video, and the first book kind of like greyish brownish tones. So when I came to paint my nails, I did them like a grey dark blue. Can you tell? Can you look? They kind of match. I got this new shirt and I was like, it's blue, I'm gonna save it for the video. And then my eye makeup, it's a blue day. I don't really know what else to talk about in the non-spoiler section. This video is already going to be way too long because I have way too many notes. I have a lot of things that I want to discuss. But yeah, so that's it for the non-spoilery section. From now on, I will be talking spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, you should leave because you will be spoiled. And I don't recommend that because they're really good. You should read them. Goodbye if you have yet to read The Evolution of Dyer. So I finished it yesterday, like midway through the day yesterday, and then I had to sit down and like compile my thoughts on what I actually wanted to talk about. And there's a lot. I don't know how much will make it in because there's a lot. I've categorized it kind of thematically rather than chronologically like I somewhat normally do, because that's just the way that seems the easiest to break it down. It may seem like madness, but it's organized madness, organized chaos, I promise you. I will also say that I might be somewhat biased in what I say, in that when reading this, I am one of those people that will flick forward in the book to kind of get little snippets of what happens here and there, or like if I'm reading a page, I'll skip forward a couple pages to see how it resolves, because I can't handle the stress of I can't handle it. I did it a lot in this one, especially kind of when I was reading the beginning section. I was stressed reading the beginning section, like really maybe unhealthily stressed. So I just like kept flicking and flicking until maybe like 2/3, and then by the time I got to 2/3, I flicked to random bits in the end. I didn't know everything, but I knew some things enough to like maybe alter the way in which I was thinking. Gonna start with okay, I think we're gonna start with like her powers and this whole grandmother situation. Right at the beginning, when she's back in a mental hospital, that initially really had me stressed out, the fact that she was back in a mental hospital. We find out that her mother's mother committed suicide. That's why she's so worried about everything. She says that her mum had magical thinking, which obviously we all know is very similar to some other people we know. It seems like Mara's grandmother maybe had something kind of like Noah and Mara does. Come the end, we find out that it's a gene, so her grandmother probably had said gene. I assumed at the end of the first book that Mara had controlled the woman to shoot the gun because she was visualizing a gun. Mara thought she did it as well, and no, it didn't. He didn't think that Mara has the capability of manipulating someone else's free will, which is interesting. I kind of would like that to come back into play at some point, even if only after realization something about her powers. When we had that very first flashback to India, I instantly knew that it was her grandmother. Why India? Why else? The way they were talking about her, it was intense. She had a human heart, so something obviously went down. What is her abilities? Why does she have a human heart, and why was there no blood or anything else? What was her grandmother's abilities? I need to know. Does it affect Mara's abilities? Is it similar to Mara's abilities? Is that why Mara's the way she is because her grandmother was the way that she was? Is it like hereditary, that this gene will be the same? But it's all the same gene in all of the people, so it's not like this singular gene will be attached to a certain ability and then that can be passed down. Or can it? I want to know. Mara even wonders at one point if it was reincarnation. She had that book, right, with the genetics. I can't remember what it was. Genetic memory, something like that, which Noah shot her down. And I did really appreciate how he just kept coming up with like the scientific explanations, and Mara was getting really annoyed by it. But I didn't want to think this is paranormal so much as like more of a shatter me, the darkest minds ordeal, which is, it kind of feels a little bit like that. But I was straight up thinking reincarnation. They dismissed possession. Oh, my theory. I have the doll, which was really creeping me out. It moved before the dream, and then there was the dream, and as soon as she said it, I was hypnotized by her hands. What is it? A present, something for you to play with, so you'll never feel alone. The freaking doll. It has the blood on it, and I was like, Mara, find the blood, find the blood. And she did. She found the blood. Burn it, bye bye. Now it smelled like human hair. I'm assuming that's because she didn't have anything else to stuff it with. And the note, what do you think the note said? I'm thinking something that would explain like the necklace situation. And then because it kept moving around, and I assumed along her vein, okay, if we're believing that Jude is real, who else would it be? It wasn't Jude. No, it said quietly. What wasn't Jude? The doll in your bedroom. You didn't put it there. I blinked, not getting it. Then who did? It felt like forever before Noah finally spoke. You. The gasp. Her subconscious must have been making her move it. So this doll is relevant, and the necklaces, like, they have to mean something. A feather and a dagger, isn't it? Something to that effect. Seems like some kind of balance. A feather represents Noah and his healing abilities, and a dagger is Mara and her killing abilities. Also the fact that their families are connected. I was thinking, is it like a balance situation? Is there a good one and a bad one? Noah's family, they're the good ones, go along the vein of the powers being passed down. Mara's grandmother had, and you know, they balance each other out. I wonder if there was an inciting incident that brought this all on. And the photo, she was the same age. What is that about? This all needs to be explained. If this isn't explained, there are a lot of things that'll be okay. If they're not 100% fleshed out in the next one, I can wait for the short confessions. But this needs to be explained. Oh, and the woman screaming whispered louder and louder. It was the same word, just one word that she repeated over and over again. Her frail arm rose, her finger pointed at me like an accusation. Mara, she whispered again and again and again, and then she began to scream. These seem definitely to be memories. I don't think she's imagining this stuff. I feel like this is something that her grandmother legitimately went through and legitimately had this memory, and now for some reason it's coming up to Mara. Why is it coming up to Mara now? What triggered these memories, and how is this happening? How are these memories being passed down? Is it the genetic memory thing? Noah kind of made the discovery, if you will, that it was connected to her fight or flight response, and that felt great because it felt like we were moving forward, and I think that was the first time it felt like we were moving forward in a long time. It seems that she needs to be in like a heightened state to trigger these things, but is that only because she doesn't know how to control it yet? Will she be able to control it without being in said heightened state? I think she will. I don't necessarily believe that it's only fight response right now, because it seems too limiting, especially considering what other people can seemingly do. Her power seems very limited. I guess it's quite intense. And then Noah also thought that it wasn't so much her just like killing people, it wasn't as simple as that she could manipulate like physical things around her. Like they had a medicine bottle, Tylenol or something, I think. He tried to get her to move it, and of course she couldn't. Maybe again that's because right now she doesn't know how to control it, and she needs to be in said heightened state, the fight or flight response. And I was like at the time thinking, no, where's the connection here? Like that seems too far stretched, because the killing people thing, it's not like she's physically imagining it happening. She just like had a glimpse of someone being dead and then they turned up dead. Then at the end she brought the building down, and the first time with Jude she slammed the doors and that's how the building collapsed. She didn't imagine that other person dead. So it does seem, the more I think about it, more along that vein. Maybe not manipulating everything ever, at least a little bit would seem so. I think so, at least. And if we look at Mara's grandmother, at the very last dream memory thing, she opened the cages of the animals. That was manipulating physical things, which Mara can also do, seemingly. It supports my theory that their abilities are in some way connected. I mean, it does seem that death and destruction of some sort is always linked somehow. So I still think it's like this bad versus good ordeal with her and Noah. And then again, her name gets brought into these memories. This one really got me ticked. The line of it can't just be the fact that she passed the gene down. With the doll and her name being brought up before, the other boy, the one with the small eyes, had gone white and still. He was not looking at the tiger, he was looking at me, and his mouth formed the shape of the word that would one day become my name. Mara, is this what her grandmother was thinking? It seems like these thoughts that are happening in these dreams are her grandmother's thoughts, not Mara's. Does her grandmother know that this will one day become her name? Like, this is like going on the reincarnation route. Is her grandmother like inside of Mara? It has to be a bigger link. There has to be more going on there. And if not, I'm gonna be really mad for all these false red herrings. The blonde woman who made the doll, is she related to the Shaws in some way? Is she Noah's mother's mother? That was my thinking, or like maybe like a great aunt or somewhere in there. She was blonde and then Noah's mother was blonde, and it seems like a connection. Don't know though. So in conclusion, the biggest things I want to know from this aspect is we need to know more about Mara's powers. We need to get her to be able to control them, for one, and see if it is in this heightened state, and for two, we need to know to what extent her abilities are, because Noah can like sense people as well as heal people. He seems to have a lot going on, and for Mara to only be able to envision people dead and then they turn up dead seems quite limited. Okay, let's talk about Noah and their relationship and them. The kissing thing, I was so invested, to the point where I was getting quite frustrated myself. And they kept having these like near kisses, and there were so many of them. When I was flicking through to kind of pick out my favorites, there were loads. When it finally happened, I'm gonna get into it in more detail. I was so just like worked up about it, and I just sat there and sat back for a second and thought, oh wow, I'm really invested into whether these two fictional characters do or don't kiss. Is there something wrong? Like, this can't be good. This is the way that I am. But I've always been like this. I get too invested into this stuff. Is it a little bit sad that I was as invested as I was? Probably. Am I sorry for it? No. And they were quite serious for a lot, especially in the beginning. And it was getting me down a little bit because Noah was the light in the first book. He was what made it easy to kind of handle the whole situation. He's the exact same in this one. Like I said, I found the beginning really difficult, and it wasn't until we saw Noah again and like had a full-on sit down with Noah that I felt okay. He relieves the tension so well because he's so chill and he hides his emotions so well. Even if he's like struggling, he doesn't show it, so it makes you feel like everything's okay. He makes Mara think that everything's okay, which in turn makes you think that everything is okay. Around like 165, we have like one of these near kissing scenes, like when he had her pushed up against the door. I did feel like he was being a little bit coy with her. I think he wanted her to initiate things. He wanted her to take charge, and I mean, it makes sense because she's the one with the fear. I was wondering, why is she always asking him, why don't you just kiss him? I guess she's scared and she doesn't want to lose control. Felt very Juliet from the Shatter Me trilogy. I was just having so many flashbacks, like I felt like we've been here before. And the scene where they were sitting on the floor and he like walked her through it in her mind, that was so much fun. I loved reading that. Their flirting is just so good. It's so good. Their banter is great, and then the way it translates into flirting is just, it's all so good. Love that scene. How much do we really know about Noah? I think it's unfair to say that we don't know him very well. We don't know a ton. He's still quite mysterious. But I think it's also because of the situation that they're in. We don't get to see the downtime, which is obviously there because Mara references to it once or twice. I don't know. I just want to know him better. But I guess we have the Shaw confessions coming up, so that will probably solve my qualms. I can't complain too much, I guess. But I liked reading the diary section, if nothing else, because it felt like we're really getting to know him, because it was so direct from him, and that was the first time we kind of had that, I think, in such startling clarity. We've heard bits about like his mother. Her mother even asks Mara at one point, do you guys ever talk about what's going on with him? And I was like, yeah, Mara, do you? Because I don't think you do. I don't want to say that Mara's always like talking about herself, because what she's going through is tough. and it probably does take precedent, and they probably do talk about him. We just don't see it because it's probably in a less heightened context. What's going on? I want to know more about his powers too. We know more about his than hers for sure, but it's still not locked down, so we still need to know more about him, I think, in the long run. I could let that one take a little bit longer because, like I said, it's not as unclear as Mara. I worry about his home life, and we don't really talk about it very much. And his sisters seemed to be somewhat close because they only had each other. Like at the club they were talking and laughing. Like at the end when he joins Mara Horizons, I was like, what about your family? And it took us a while to kind of find out how he got there with the Lolita situation. And like, I know he's not close with his family and he won't care what his dad thinks, but like, what about his stepmother and his sister Stephanie's situation, which was really touching. I didn't know what to think of it when it came up in the first book. Did he date her and ruin everything? Because it didn't sound like him. Then he was doing it out of revenge, and that kind of did sound like him. The way Noah left it, I guess you should made me think that's not the whole truth. We're not hearing everything here. We didn't, obviously. I think things would be so much easier for Mara and Noah and Jamie in that whole situation if he knew. Obviously he wouldn't hate Noah anymore, and I kind of feel bad for Noah. At the same time, does Noah care? He'd rather do the right thing, and it's not his thing to tell. And oh, he's so sweet, and it was just so nice to like confirm how lovely Noah is and how he doesn't want anyone to know he likes people thinking these bad things about him. Stephanie herself said, you only see what Noah wants you to see. That really got me worried because there's all these like references that her and Noah will end in, you know, they were packed in the first book and they were packed in this one as well. Nothing good can come of them being together. It will end in Noah's ruin. She couldn't imagine that after everything she's been through, the boy she loves would still be keeping secrets. She's wrong. Like, they make it so dramatic sounding and I don't like it and it puts me on edge. But it did make me wonder what's he got hiding. It did scare me a little bit. I feel like come the end though, Mara knows him pretty well, like how she was reading his facial expression because he's so caged. She kind of started to learn the patterns. Like when she said anyone else would see rage but I saw terror. Of course we have the fake birthday scene and we have the dress which sounded beautiful. Of course it fits her. Of course it fits her perfectly. Noah can guesstimate sizing like that. And the necklace, did it feel a little strong? He didn't give her the necklace, she gave it back to him for safekeeping. This belonged to my mother but it was meant for you. And like he refers to the necklace as a birthday present as well. I would have gave it to her. Did it feel a little strong? Then I guess what he says, the wind had untied my hair and now it hung loose in dark waves over my bare shoulders. The wood beneath my feet was smooth, warmed by air and water. I lifted the hem of the dress. I would die if I tripped and wondered where I was going. At the end of the dock, small torches rose out of the ground and their flames guided my way. I followed them down to the beach until finally I saw him. Like, what movie scene have I just walked into? Right as he's about to kiss her. I was fuming. Now is the appropriate time she decides to tell him that she read the diary thing. No, I don't think it is an appropriate time, Mara. I think you need to wait. Yes, she was like doing the right thing because she didn't want there to be any secrets between them. But now it roared back loudly in my ears. If I didn't tell him now, I never could. Lies make us look like someone else, but with Noah, I had to be myself. Even Noah says, must we do this? He seems much more British. In this one, I could say something and be like, yes. But his vocabulary seemed more English. And I don't know if I just didn't pay attention in the first book or if I imagined him kind of with an American accent for some reason. Being English, when an English character comes up in a book, it doesn't register much. Unless they have like a really vivid accent that's really strong in some way. I don't really imagine characters with like an American or an English accent. He has this big outburst. Obviously he was very frustrated and I didn't like that, but I felt like I got to know him a little bit better for him, so I'm glad that we had it. They keep thinking of Noah as broken. I don't know how I feel about that. Is it romanticizing the idea of someone being somewhat depressed and self-harming? Maybe a little bit, but I feel like it comes up often in books, like these damaged guys, especially around romantic interest. And I guess it kind of similar to the manic pixie girl, these like depressed, dangerous, broody, broken guys and these manic pixie girls. And are they romanticizing things that we shouldn't be romanticizing? Is it potentially problematic? Probably. Gonna let it slide though. It makes sense for his character to be that way. They're both damaged. I guess you'd hope that the audience reading this would be old enough to know better. He wasn't afraid of me, not just because he believes I couldn't hurt him, but because even if I did, he would welcome the pain. Noah was still chasing oblivion, and in me he found it. You want me to hurt you. My voice was barely above a whisper. I could kill you, the words were etched in steel. and a step, his eyes challenging mine. Try. That seemed well founded. And then when she does kiss him, which finally admits that something changed in her. He felt it. And the fact that he stopped it, he didn't just let it carry on and then at the end was like, oh yeah, I felt something change. She asked him multiple times, did it hurt you? And his response was, I'm still here, meaning you didn't kill me, also not saying no, you didn't hurt me. So that leads me to believe that she did hurt him, which would be fine, and like he can probably take it, he's a big boy. But A, pushes that theory of like him wanting the pain, but also what's changing in her and why is this happening? Again, is it rather than fight flight, like it's a heightened state again, she's losing control, and that seems to be when this happens. So that's my theory, but I'm very aware that it could be something else. I want it confirmed. I want that ironed out. Why does she change when they kiss, and will this happen forever? No one said that he loved her twice, and it just went, no one acknowledged it. He hinted at it in the beginning, and I remember at the time being like, are we just moving past that? I didn't think you had to make the choice you said you made then, but if I did have to choose between someone I loved and a stranger, I would choose the one I love. Being Mara. He says again in this whole birthday scenario, you can't hurt me the way you think you can, but even if you could, I would rather die with the taste of you on my tongue than live and never touch you again. I'm in love with you, Mara. I love you no matter what you do. And then her response is, we're only 17. I feel like a lot too fast. It does a little bit, but I think that's because we never see the downtime. It'd be nice to see it. I would make the book longer, but I'm okay with that because it's relatively long. It's like 520 odd pages, but it's really big text, so it's not actually that long. So I want some more downtime, just like little snippets every now and then. So overall, I want to find out kissing situation, what's happening to her and why. I want to know more about Noah's situation, as in like his powers, and I also just want to know more about him. He's so guarded, and I don't know how much I trust his guardedness. Then it looks like he's not going to be around too much in the Retribution of Mara Dyer, at least in the beginning. How long are we gonna have to wait? I don't want to wait that long. I don't think he's dead, by the way. We're gonna get into that, but no, he's, well, I mean, we have the Noah Shul confession, so he can't be dead. But even if that wasn't a thing, of all the people to kill off, it's too convenient, don't you think? No. No. Let's talk about some writing things. I often think something and then say something like immediately after it, like they'd be next to each other on the page. Like she'd either think yes and then say no, or there was one or two times where she'd think something and then the way she responded, she said the same thing but the way she worded it was differently to kind of give a different meaning. She kind of like softened it a little bit. And then sometimes she'd think something and then just say the exact same thing she thought, and I really loved this. I thought it was really interesting. I loved it. She still had her snark with the picture. She talked about bursting into flames. When Daniel came to visit at like her group, that was wonderful, Daniel, Brooke said. Why don't we all clap for Mara and Daniel? Scattered applause here. I really loved her snarky writing style, and I just, like, it was there in the first one, but I think it really shone through in this one. There were one or two things kind of like the first one that were a little bit cliche, and that was a little bit like, like her smile often didn't meet her eyes, and this felt like a huge debate in my brain. Do smiles meet eyes? And they do, and I know what she meant. I think also the fact that she said it so many times, so many smiles didn't meet eyes, like her smiles, Noah's smiles, just smiles all around. I think if she hadn't said it as much, I wouldn't have noticed it, and I wouldn't have thought about it as much as I did, but I just went down the spiral of like, can you tell when your own smile meets your eyes? Like when someone's smile doesn't meet their eyes, can you tell? Can you tell every single time? Is it like as consistent as the way she's describing it being? I saw something online the other day and it made me think, when an author had a catchphrase or like a word that they just use over and over, like I think it was from Twilight and Edward's chuckling. He chuckles a lot, I think it was, and then when you see it you can't unsee it, and that was this for me. It irks me just a smidgen. There were also 2 breaths that Mara let out that she didn't know she was holding. One, I just the thing is, sometimes we forget, and I don't know if it's necessary that we're holding our breath, maybe it is, but we're not breathing and we're not conscious of it. I think it's maybe the wording of it. I let out a breath that I didn't know I was holding. The line rarely changes. I have seen 1 or 2 times where they put a little bit of a variation on it, but it was still very, very similar. And it's in YA particularly, just all the time, man. Strange phenomenon where we hold our breath and we don't realize it. Like, fine, but describe it differently, like so differently that you wouldn't even recognize it. I have some random bits that I particularly liked, or you know, I made me feel emotions, I guess. I loved it when her and her dad ran out in the rain. I loved her relationship with her dad, and I think we got to see it. I think we saw a little bit more in this one than we did in the first one. Not to say that we didn't see it in the first one, we just saw a little bit more, and I love their relationship. And I just love her relationship with her family in general. Most of these things about her brothers, They're so cute, and I love Noah interacting with her family, and I'm worried that we're not going to see her family as much in the second one because of the given circumstances, and I hope we do. It doesn't have to be saturated, but those little moments, and I talked about this in my first video about like the humanity of it all, how nice it was. Daniel thought she was possessed too. It wasn't just me, and he felt really strongly about it in the Ouija board, and I don't know again if that was just like a red herring type thing, but like the fact that it came up multiple times for a minute had me like, is Jude a ghost? Am I right? I loved it when he said about how she doesn't watch Buffy and how it was a flaw in her. Just their interactions are so good. I know he walked off shouting, then she's a vampire. My brother called up from his room, she's not a vampire. Or a werewolf, those are probably too. She's not a werewolf. Love you! And I loved Joshua's and Noah's when they were playing the game. Well, Noah said, standing up and stretching his fingertips to touch the ceiling. I don't know about you, but after letting your brother win, I'm quite famished. Joseph slit his eyes at Noah. Liar. Prove it. Noah shot back. I can prove it. Then if you'll pardon me, Nemesis, he said to Joseph, we will rematch another day. You'll still lose. The corner of Noah's mouth lifted as he walked to the kitchen. I joined him and watched him rummage in the refrigerator. Fancy a cucumber? He said, holding one up. You're not very good at this. Pizza, Joseph called out. Must we? Noah yelled back. He turned to face me. What do you want? Not pizza, I agreed. I feel kind of gross. Gross indeed. Can you think of any food item in particular that would make you feel less gross? I shrugged. I don't know. Soup? Pea soup, perhaps? I hate you. But you make it so easy. Chinese? I shook my head and glanced out the window. Look, never mind, you're making this quite difficult. Joseph! Noah called out. What? Where are Daniel and Sophie? I picked drawers. My brother shouted back. Noah looked at me with raised eyebrows. Find me, he said. What kind of food is it? Noah asked. Israeli. Do they have soup? Sushi too! Joseph yelled. Enough of the yelling! Just that whole scene. It was so great. I loved it. When Daniel visited Mara in Horizons and he said all the things. That was so sweet. It was so nice. I love how like Daniel always has her back because he gets it. He gets what she's going through in a way I think her parents don't, and the fact that she still needs to be a normal kid. And I hated it when after the whole like suicide scare, it scared the hell out of us, Mara. I closed my eyes trying not to sound as infuriated as I was. This was Jude's fault, but they were the ones who had to pay. I know, I said evenly. I'm sorry. The apology tasted foul and I felt the urge to spit. I just keep, what if the police found you an hour later? Like how frustrating it was that she had to apologize, that she had to admit and be like, yeah, that was me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And I just watched like her brother break. Jamie's back. I love Jamie. I was so glad when he was back. And they were stealing the files and Jamie found them. Well, well, what do we have here? I nearly jumped out my skin. So did I. I was just like, we come so far to turn back now. If he doesn't know a show, he said in a blue voice mimicking Noah's accent. Seducer of virgins, fresh from making beautiful music with his beautiful conquest in the music studio. Metaphor, he stage whispered. Which is fine, free country, but unless you're about to engage in some executive security roleplay, Jamie, or oh my god, psychologist patient roleplay, please tell me that is not what you're about to do, or I will throw up in both your faces simultaneously. I love him. Okay, so Jude and her mental health. And I say that because there were some things that I was like, is this Jude or is this her? And there were definitely some times where things would be her. The cat, I felt so bad for her. And in the beginning, things were hard. I'm already struggling and just like these things would happen and it'd make everything so much worse. And that was like, was that actually Jude? Because at the end of the Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, I was unsure whether it was Jude or not. I didn't know. Was he a hallucination or was it someone else and she just put Jude onto him and that's why she felt him? Wasn't really sure for the beginning of the book. It wasn't until at some point I skipped ahead and I saw that like Jude was having a conversation with Mara and I was like, oh crap, he's probably real then. But the cat stage I wasn't sure. In theory it could have been like another wild animal that killed the cat or something else could have killed the cat. It didn't have to be Jude. But I really hated it and like she couldn't tell anyone because they wouldn't believe her. It's like clean up the blood and oh, I just felt so bad for her. Then, page 118, when she's in the car with her dad, her reflection winks at her. Now that's not Jude, that's not Claire, it's not got anything to do with her power, I don't think. That's her. That's on her. So I think she's definitely still suffering with PTSD. We can't say that she's okay, because she's not okay. There's still stuff going on under the surface, and I feel like we didn't see that as much in this one. Some of the stuff that happens in the Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. Jude messing around with her. Obviously now we know that was Jude. He took Joseph, had the key. He actually showed up to the restaurant and the school he was there, which That's so creepy. That was honestly one of the scariest things I think that happened. Ugh. But Clara popping up, you kids have fun, that's on Mara. There were some other things like when the stuff flipped, it was on the wrong side of the wheel. Like Jude can't move a door. We didn't get so many clues of them in here, but we had some. The winking thing was a big one. There are other things, but they could be explained away by Jude, or they could be explained away by the genetic thing. The doll, that I'm pretty sure is down to her grandmother. There's something going on, and subconsciously she knew that doll was important. But that one thing, the winking thing, can't be explained away like that. It has to be her. So why is there only one? I think there's a bit of a consistency flaw there. I think if it is alluding to the fact that she's still not okay, I think we need to have more in there. I guess to help me over and over. That one could also suggest that she's not okay, but it could be something to do with her grandmother's repressed memories. I even think that maybe it could have been Jude. He did it kind of convince her parents that she needed to be sent away to the retreat place. I feel like it does come back into play later on. I don't know how correct I might be there. That's a complete theory. The fact that she looked different, she was changing somehow, and the way it was talked about made it sound like something was taking over her, almost as if like her ability was, which it might be. It could be like a side effect of her powers. I'll get into this properly later. Or it could be that she's still going through PTSD and Jude and all this other crap at the same time. It's a lot of trauma to have within a short period of time. He nearly crashes into them. That really scared me because no one would have known, no one would have believed her, and just the fact that like he can do whatever he wants when he wants, it seemed. It's all well and good, you know, hiring someone to watch her house, but like whenever she leaves the house, she's unprotected. Time was supposed to heal all wounds, but how could it when Jude kept picking the scab? Such a great quote. And I think that like emphasizes my point of she's under a lot right now. Lots of these things can be explained by her mental health, and I think they should be, because she's going through a lot, so she probably would be suffering, especially as she was in The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. I think she definitely had PTSD. Oh my god, the pictures of her when she was sleeping, just like, this book was creepier, I found, than The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, especially just with all this Jude stuff. And if you think about the possibility that Jude isn't there, like who else is doing this? Like this is physical stuff now, and it's so creepy, and no one believes her, which just makes it even more scary. I didn't like it. I lost it when I found out, because I was so into it when she's asleep. Why was her journal in Daniel's room as well? I didn't like that situation, and I don't really understand it. I think we need to come back to it in the next one. And then it turns out that they didn't live at the house that Mara thought they did, or they did, and like what? Why? Or Claire gave them a fake address. Did Mara actually ever go there? But then Rachel gave it to Mara, so presumably Rachel had been to Claire's house. Had Rachel ever actually gone to Claire's? Is this knowledge that we know and solid? Because I remember feeling a little bit confused and not feeling 100% sure. Could it be that it was a fake address and Dr. Cowles was in on it the whole time? Because at the end she was in the asylum. I'm thinking that she was a player way early on, that she had been influencing Jude early on. And in the list of the names with the powers, JL, artificially manifested. She did this to him. There's also CL, artificially manifested, diseased. I'm guessing that's Claire. So my thinking is that Claire and Jude were involved early on. So I'm thinking that she kind of like raised them and did this to them. And they did have parents at the funeral, didn't they? Unless they were actors, maybe. Parents didn't know. I feel like this is like too out there of a theory. So what's up with that? What's up with the house? I need that. I need to know that. That is an answer that I need to know. And then we have the creepy tape of creepiness. I just feel so bad for Mara. She keeps having to relive this really horrible thing that happened and that she feels really guilty about. And she wakes up in his car. She must have been drugged. I didn't see how. When did this happen? Like completely just thrown through a loop there. And hearing the way he was talking about her family and Joseph, I didn't like it. And for ages, when she got sent away, I'm just like, I was thinking about her family the whole time, because what's to stop him from manipulating her family? At this point, assuming that he's doing this to torture her, I was so scared. And it took Noah ages to get the confirmation that he's sending more people to watch the house. And just that whole scene where he had her tied up, it just made me really uncomfortable. The way he was talking about her, he sounded so predatory, just vile. Oh, I had to put it down. A little bit squeamish. Thing is though, it's weird and it comes up at weird times. Like I get affected by it at weird times. It got to me. I felt really faint and I had to put it down and just like completely, nope, this is fine, you're not there. The dead fish. And she thinks it was Jude, that Jude did this because Jude is like her. That all the animals ran away when Jude came back into town. And do we think the murder of crows, was that him? Daniel hit a crow with his car and a bunch of them fell down. It seems a bit random for a murder. a murder of crows. I like how that was mentioned in the first book. Daniel corrected Mara that it's a murder of crows, and she remembered and she's learned. Is it random for him just to like fall from the sky because he's in town? So he must have been around, I think. But I'm assuming that's what that was. I don't know how else I would explain it. The dead fish, I think it still could have been her because she was stressed. Like when, you know, put the leech on her and she killed everything just because she was so stressed. I mean, it doesn't really matter who it was, but like I still think it could have been Mara. Then we have the whole cop situation and he stabs himself. And I was expecting him to stab the cop, and then the cop like has a seizure. Like instantly connected 2 dots that like Jude must somehow have done that. Like why would he stab himself? What purpose does he gain? And that's weird. And the fact that John didn't stop him when he's supposed to be this like, crazy good security guy. It was weird. Then she gets sent back to the hospital and it was just so frustrating. I was so mad. I'd come so far. You'd have gone through so much like pretending that everything's okay. I don't know if I would have the energy to do what she did, because even around her parents she was constantly fake smiling, everything was fine and dandy, and more than fine and dandy, everything's sunshine and rainbows. Only to be sent back to square one. When she woke up and was trying to tell her mom, part of me like really felt for her because of course you want to tell her, but they're not. No, like you're hammering the nail in the coffin. That's the one. They wouldn't listen to me. Only one person would. Noah, I whispered into the thunder. I felt really bad for Noah listening to him like recount how he saw it. When she got kidnapped, I thought like he would instantly see all of it. I'm glad that she bit down her tongue though, because she thought it was pain induced, just for good measure. That would be interesting to see if it is pain induced or if he would have just seen it even if she hadn't bit down on her tongue. You told me about the notebook you didn't remember writing in, and I'd never heard you sound like that. His voice grew distant. I scrambled to get to Boston to make the other flight the second we hung up. I did, and I was trapped on that fucking plane, but he forced you. No, I didn't finish his sentence. I felt you dying beneath my skin, he said, his tone hollow. I called Daniel from the plane. I dialed it again and again until you woke up. I told him you were going to kill yourself, Mara. I didn't know how else to explain. Oh, he's just like, it's not okay. They had you committed. He blames himself because he wasn't there and he said he'd always be there, which obviously is not his fault. I love how solid she was with him though, and how she like roughly took him and was like, no, you didn't do this. Just you're quickly becoming one of my favorite like OTPs. God, it's been so long since I heard the phrase OTP. I would want to know more about the notebook. Maybe the crows. It'd be nice to have that confirmed, but I think we have enough evidence to figure that out for ourselves and just assume that it's Jude. I'm assuming in the next one more of her PTSD stuff will come to play. I think that's all I have for Jude. The rest of it, I think it'd be easier to talk about the whole end together. I've been filming for 5,000 years. I started filming at like 10 o'clock this morning. It's nearly 4:30. It has been a long day. So if my makeup and hair and stuff has changed throughout this video, that is why. Finally, we have the whole Dr. Kel's Horizon just situation. So I've said it a couple times, but I don't know if you call it. In the beginning I was stressed. I was really like unhealthily stressed. I kept singing 21 Pilots, right? I think it was right. I kept singing that just to like alleviate the stress, and it wasn't until like chapter 9ish when we got to sit down with Noah that I stopped feeling stressed. Just the fact that no one believed her and the fact that she could be sent away. I wanted her and Noah to be okay. I wasn't sure if they were yet. It was intense. As soon as Dr. Kells was introduced, I'm pretty sure I didn't trust her. And I remember thinking like, am I overthinking this? I know this isn't rare that like there'll be like a figure who's there to help them and I'll be like, sure, you're there to help us. And I won't trust them in the end. Sometimes I'm right to not trust them, but sometimes they're fine. Never trust anyone in these YA books because adults are bad. I didn't trust her, especially when she left and she stood there. I like watched her, and that's when I knew she was going to be a bigger player in this. And boy oh boy was she. Didn't quite predict her to be quite as big of a player as it turns out she is. Noah got her out of the place. I completely forgot to mention I loved it. Jamie was back. I was so excited when Jamie came back because I didn't see that coming. I assumed he was gone. He was not relevant enough. Turns out he's highly relevant and he gets to stick around. I'm very excited about that. There wasn't much to see and I found myself idly staring at the ductwork at the exposed ceiling when something soft hit me in the shoulder and then bounced to the floor. I flinched. It was that sort of morning. But it was just a crumbled piece of paper. I opened it to find a crudely drawn picture of an owl with a speech bubble that said, exclamation point, exclamation point. I whipped around. Well, schmear my bagel if it isn't Mara Dyer. We sign in to the Horizon. She's going to this stupid thing, which I hated, but at least it's not residency. And could everyone be just like a little more patronizing? Please, because I don't think you're patronizing that. Like, she's 17. Okie then. That place could be enough to turn anyone legitimately full-blown psycho. I had to stay there. I legitimately think I'd come out of it more messed up than I was when I went in. But a petty criminal in a maximum security prison, and he'll come out knowing how to rape and pillage. Precisely, Jimmy said, nodding. My urge to hit things is directly proportional to the cheeriness of the staff, and I find everything ultra annoying lately, and everyone. And Phoebe, I hated her. I hated her so much. Whenever she was in a scene, instantly I felt uncomfortable. She stressed me out. So she has this creepy picture, right, with her eyes scratched out, and she's thinking that Jude did it and it's some kind of threat, and we're all flipping out. As I left the dining room though, fingers tightened around my wrist and pulled me into a niche. My eyes followed them up to Phoebe's face. I glanced behind me. We're out of view. You're welcome, she said tonelessly. I wrenched my arm away. For what? Phoebe's face was a blank mask. For fixing your eyes. Ew, 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 ew. We go to her office and it's all white and there's no clocks on the walls, and she's like, it feels weird in here. And I'm thinking, what are you, Dr. Kells? And she like goes to sit down and she almost misses her chair. When she took all the medications, I was thinking, okay, so they're gonna give her something dodgy. Give her some kind of drug that's gonna cause hallucinations. I was convinced that they were gonna try to make her seem crazier than she actually was to get her into residence. I wasn't sure why. I wasn't sure what their motive was though. That's the one thing like I never figured out. I didn't expect it panning out the way it did. I just knew that they weren't too interested and they were doing some corrupt stuff. And the interview she had didn't feel right to me. Something just felt off about it, and obviously I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychotherapist in any way, so I don't know. But it felt very different from the first session she had back in the first book. Felt much more like she was prodding Mara and trying to provoke her and trying to get answers out of her. Again, which led to me believe she was trying to make her seem crazier than she actually was. And then she blacks out and has the first dream. Did they give her? Was the memories triggered by one of the drugs she was given? Like, she didn't have a drug before every time she had one, or did she just earlier on in the day? Is that what triggered it? Did I solve it? Did I crack the case? I think I might have. I might also not have, and it might just be like genetic memory. Still weird that there are legit memories coming to the surface, but did they cause it? How would they know about her grandmother? Oh, okay, the whole Madame Rose ordeal. I put this in this section because of one Lukumi. So that was, you know, one of the things that happened in the first book that I was like, I need an answer to, like, where did the shop go? It was kind of explained away as they get prosecuted a lot because of animal cruelty. It's so weird that the numbers, like, it just completely vanished. So say it was 246, he was 4, and then the 4 had gone and it was 26. Like, there was no space where that shop would have been. So Madame Rose was paid off, right? Still weird to me. The boy is destined for greatness, but with you, he is in danger. You are linked, the two of you. You must leave him. I found that to be really accurate though, and even if she was paid off, like, it still unsettles me. Because, again, if we're going down this thing I keep going to, he's good and she's bad. Power's pretty darn cool. Like, it's pretty miraculous, if you ask me. She's the opposite of him. With him, he can't achieve that because she's going to keep pulling him into her mess rather than him doing what he's supposed to be doing. And the two of them are linked. The necklaces, their family history, they're obviously linked some way, somehow. This whole thing about she will love him to ruins. The preface, it was you will love him to ruins, and it was her running in the maze, the mirror maze, and now I caught up to him. If I truly loved him, she said, I would let him go. I wish I loved him enough. Just these foreshadowings, these constant foreshadowing that Noah and Mara won't end happily ever after. The reason why it's making me work, because it's constant. You have these really dramatic, like, blurb, Mara Dyer once believed she could run from her past, she can't. These really dramatic things come before each book, and they're all really bad, and they happen before the Noah Shaw books as well. Noah thought he could trust Mara or something, he can't. My worry is, the end is the last Noah Shaw book. That's the actual end. I think that's where we're gonna leave them. What is she gonna do in that last book? We know that the Retribution of Mara Dyer, neither of them die, and they're in speaking terms, at least. The worry is that this constant foreshadowing and things will happen throughout the Retribution of Mara Dyer, as well as the first two Noah Shaw books. And then who knows? Who knows what she'll do in that last book? And that's a lot of books only for it to end, sadly. And I will be so mad if it does. I was hoping that it would be done now. This is the end of this one. She loved him to ruin. She's done it. She did the thing. Good for you. he's dead. Okay. Can we move past it now? I don't think we're past it. But anyway, she says he has an accent. This is the thing that, like, already I was instantly thinking, okay, Lukumi, like, he must play a bigger role here. He couldn't have just disappeared off the face of the earth, especially since Mara wanted to find him earlier on in this book. But then, he's trying to offer her money. God knows I could use it, sweetheart, but I can't take money from either of you. Why not? Her gaze drifted off into the darkness. He told me I couldn't. So what? Noah asked. Why listen? Voice grew quiet. Because he's the real deal. book? Isn't he supposed to be like some kind of like witch doctor? She seems like she may be like a little bit superstitious. Even if not, that's still a scary threat. The Lukumi, I think, did that. All of the information that I said, it seemed really real. If he and Dr. Kells are working together, she tell him to tell her all the stuff. Does she know that they're linked? Does she know about Mara's grandmother? Does she want them to break up for some reason? If so, why? Or is he going rogue on his own and he wants them to break up because he can sense the goodness in Noah and the badness? You know, he was pretty freaked out when he saw Mara. He wants them separated. The fact that he revisited, he's got a bigger role in this. I just don't know what yet. Okay, so Anna careened off an overpass. Jamie told her to drive off a cliff. They're not the exact same, but they're pretty similar. That's a weird coincidence. And why else would she die? Accidents don't just happen in books. That's not the way this works. So, gosh, Jamie's power. Him telling Anna to drive off a cliff has to be in there somewhere. Especially with what happens with Jude. Can he tell people to do things and then they'll do them? Okay, so skipping forward, he's being sent off to Horizons, and I actually teared up. It was like 30 days without a phone call, and then she was staying for 3 months, and that's a long time. And their treat was only for a weekend, and in her shoes I would feel awful, and her mom didn't really want her to go, but she didn't know what else was best. It's just a really hard situation, and it was really hard to read. And at this point I'm just like dreading, what if the next book just stays in Horizon and she's just on her own go crazy? Then Jamie waltzed in, dressed in black. He saw me and made a beeline. This is your fault. I closed the book. Hi Jamie, nice to see you too. He shot me a glare. It's not nice to see you actually, considering why you're here. Thanks for not sugarcoating anything. I've been really sick of everyone treating me with kid gloves. The sarcasm, it burned. Look, he leaned forward. I refuse to acknowledge your suicide attempt because it screws with all my conceived notions about you, okay? Though I am happy to see that you still have your sense of humor at least. There is that. So, what did I do this time? Interesting choice of words, Amy said and looked over his shoulder at the doorway. I followed the line of his gaze and saw Noah. Here. I love how Jamie just like immediately was like, this is your fault. No hello. No, oh, I'm sorry to hear about what happened. Then Noah, he was there. And like the conversation she had with Stella, and so I was like, that really beautiful guy. Yeah, the one with the blue eyes. Yeah. Oh, and that smile too. Yes. When I found out that Noah was there, I was very, very happy, and I felt okay again because all I need is Noah or Jamie. I'll take either, really. As long as I have one of them, I'll be okay. I just can't be with Mara on her own. It's too intense. Of course she's rooming with Phoebe. Who else would she room with? I completely forgot to say, when she was talking about her boyfriend told her to put it in her bag. Why wasn't the immediate assumption Jude? I mean, I feel like Mara's smart enough that she knew it was Jude, but why wasn't it brought up in the book so that we know that she's smart enough to know it's Jude? Because she is smart enough to know it's Jude. When he got up in the middle of the night, she's like, who's Claire and Rachel? You told me everything. And she's talking about like Bloody Mary. Pretty freaky, man. And the fact that she keeps putting on this show, and she did it earlier in the book as well. As soon as Brooke turns her back, she like smiles, and it's, I just she made me feel so uncomfortable. Both her and Noah like noticed something was up with her, and I'm assuming that just means that they both knew she was putting on a charade. At the time though, I was like, can they sense some kind of like superpower abilities, or is there something going on under the surface? Just skipping forward quickly so we can be done with Phoebe and her shenanigans. When we saw her dead, that was intense. I guess I feel bad for the kid. Sounds like she was manipulated by Jude. She wasn't wholly in control. It was very, very unethical practice from Dr. Kells. And it was pretty traumatic. And I didn't like reading that section either. I wonder what was wrong with her, if she was just genuinely mentally ill, or if she had like an ability and she had side effects along with said ability. Like, what was her ability for her to have that drastic side effects with Stella? Because he saw her, someone broke her wrist. I want to know more about that, who broke her wrist and why, because she seems to have like a pretty dark background, the way she's so reserved. I think he thinks that the people he sees in his visions are people like them, people with these weird powers, which would mean that Jane is like them. Don't really know what to think there. I'm assuming it will be looked into in the future. I also loved it when they were reading through the files, which is very sweet. To be together in the retribution of Mara Dyer, I'm gonna be really, really sad. So there's this whole contradictions thing, and he explained it like, if you're allergic to penicillin, it's about whether taking the penicillin outweighs the risk. I might do my own research on that to understand it better. I don't think Mara completely understands it anyway. Come the end, when like things get explained to her, she still had a lot of questions. Reassures me that they should be explained in the next book, because she's also uncertain. And she was being sedated, drugs she was taking, and the victory. I knew it. I did not, however, see coming that Dr. Kells had a camera installed in her room. How and when did she do that? Why was she watching her? And ew, hate it. I hate her. I can't stand that we're now trapped with her. Okay, so we have the whole end section scene where they're locked in the building. They can't get out. Lights aren't turning on and there are no adults around. And then they walk into the Zen garden. And what a scene to behold. That was so dramatic. The end was like epic vibes. And from here things go very, very quickly. I had to reread a lot of it. When I finished, I had to go back and reread chunks as well because everything happened so fast and Mara was thinking so quickly, which you would in that situation, but I struggled understanding what happened some of the time. Just kept jumping to conclusions. I went back through and I think most of them were pretty well founded and I just misunderstood some of the things the first time around, but I do have quite a lot to say for this section, just so it's clear, and then in future I can refer back to this and understand what happened. So Jude thinks that she can bring Claire back. He says that Claire was his family, which supports the idea that his parents at the funeral, they were like actors and really just involved with Dr. Kells, and everything he'd done up until this point was to induce fear from Mara, which makes sense that it wasn't just mindlessly torturing her, although he did seem to reap a lot of enjoyment out of it, and a lot of things he said was quite sick. But I do wonder if come the retribution of Mara Dyer, I don't think he's dead. I think he's still around, unfortunately. I wonder if he's gonna be on our side though. Not necessarily through and through, but if we're going down the track of Dr. Kells did this to him and Claire, and then Claire died because of it. In a way, they could maybe angle that onto Dr. Kells rather than Mara, and he could maybe come to his senses a little bit. I don't know if we'll fully forgive him, because obviously what he did to Mara was not okay. There's no forgiving that. Very morally corrupt things happening with Joseph, but I do wonder if he wasn't as involved in this as we think, and if he was put up to a lot of it. So Stella can read minds. Mara got that very quickly. That's cool. That will be useful to have on our side. I like that. They will have power. Apart from, I don't know if Megan and Adam, I don't think they do it, so I wonder if they'll be in the last book at all. I'm wondering why Hal set up this little experiment in the first place. I'm guessing it's just to push Mara to see what she can do. Feels like there are other ways you can find that out than this weird, sick little experiment of hers, because essentially she doesn't care if the other people die. It seemed that some of them have powers. You think she'd want to keep the ones with powers around to experiment on them further. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, she set up the whole Phoebe death so it looked like Mara had done it. Really worried me, but since the building came down, I don't think we have to worry about that anymore. I wonder if he knew he had powers. Jamie, I think Stella, she knew, because you can't ignore that. But Jamie, did he know? And how long did he know? I'm very much looking forward to getting to the bottom of that. He's threatening all the different people, and Noah's like trying to tell her, no, it's not you, it's him. He wanted Noah to take her place, but it wasn't working. Noah didn't move. Jude dropped Stella's wrist then. She fell back against the bloody sand, and I felt a split second of relief, until Jude pinched the back of Jamie's neck. Everything changed. My stomach curdled with fear. Not Jamie, you bitch. I let this one go, Jude said with a wholesome smile, if Mara takes his place. I let out the breath I didn't realise I had been holding. Why? 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 I was there getting really stressed because he had Jamie. I laughed so loudly. And then Noah and Jude had the fight, and it was so cool. I loved how cool Noah is. Jude, when he hurts himself, he can give people seizures. Mara said that he was more powerful than she was, but I don't think he was. He has to hurt himself to be able to do it, whereas Mara doesn't. And she can cause a lot more than a seizure. Although he has healing abilities as well, doesn't he? Because he grew his hands back. I guess that gives him a bit of edge. Also interesting, the fact that it's a little bit of Noah and a little bit of Mara. He was artificially, he didn't have the gene, right? They are artificially manifested. So did they know about Noah's and Mara's powers previously and did that on purpose? Did they know about her grandmother and Noah's mother? For ages, I was just like, why doesn't Mara try and kill Jude? Like, with the car accident, why don't you just try and kill him? Like, why didn't it appear to her sooner? And then she did when she finally got kidnapped. It wasn't working. Huh. That's weird. And with the seizures, Megan and Adam were having seizures, but not Jamie and Stella, because his powers couldn't affect them. And then Mara's like, well, my powers can't affect them. Maybe when I bring the building down, maybe they won't get hurt. Like Jude survived when I brought down the asylum. And this opened up so many questions for me. If Mara and Jude's powers can't affect other people with powers, can Stella? Can her powers affect people without powers? Can she read other people's minds if they don't have the powers? can Jamie's powers affect people who don't have powers? Noah's can. He can heal people who aren't like them. I can't get past this fact. I need this looked into more. I loved it when he kissed her scars. I completely forgot about that. That was so cute. And also, if Mara bringing down the slime, it didn't hurt Jude. He survived. Well, I mean, Jude was hurt. He didn't have any hands, right? I wonder if that was Cal's doing to make it believable that he had died. Is that a factor though? Is he still alive because he was like them and her powers couldn't affect him in the same way? If that's true, then surely it would apply to Jamie and Stella as well. Maybe not Megan and Adam, and by that logic, Noah as well. Talking of that, Jamie and gang, they get out. Okay, they're good. Dude has the thing to her throat. He's like threatening to kill her. Why? I don't understand why at this point he's threatening to kill her. Because his motivation for doing this is to bring Claire back. She's dead. Claire's not coming back. So is it to get payback at Noah? I think he was like smiling and taunting Noah. He seemed pretty like he was gonna kill her. Mara said, "It's fine, Noah. He's not gonna kill me. I lied." So she genuinely believes he's gonna kill her. He just decides, you know what? Screw it. Claire's not worth it. You've gone to me now. Did he believe them when they said that she can't bring Claire back? What happened there? Because it happened so fast and there was no hint of him changing his mind, and it just didn't make sense to me. Did anyone else feel like that? He decides to bring the building down because she wants to stop him. She doesn't want him to kill her, presumably. And she knows it's not going to kill him, but she needs to just bring an end to the situation. Starts pushing him into the wall, pins him, crush him against it so firmly that bits of plaster seem to shake off and fly to the floor. I was stronger than I knew. I couldn't kill Jude with my mind, but I would kill him with my body. He deserved to die. So she seemed to be like she could genuinely kill him in this moment. In which case, why didn't she keep going down that road? Maybe, you know, Noah's right there. He could give you a helping hand. Get one of those things from the floor and slash it. I guess he could heal in the same way Noah could. But maybe have him unconscious enough to wait for the next day and for people to come back. She probably just saw red at that point and decided to bring down the building anyway. I was running out of time. I'd have to choose even though neither option was good. Maybe our hero could see another way out of this. But I was no hero. You always have a choice, Noah had once said. I made mine. So cool. So she brings down the building and we wake up in a hospital room. I'm assuming we're still at Horizon. I'm assuming that her parents aren't going to hear anything about this or know anything about this, and they're going to explain this away somehow. Well, it seems it's going to happen. Like I said, she was at the asylum, so she was there, and I wondered if she told Jude to do what he did to provoke Mara. She had a much bigger role in this from the very beginning, because why else was she there? Why was she there? Turns out they're doing some kind of double-blind study. Is Horizon only with powers? I don't think so, because there seems to be people there without powers, but are these failed attempts of people with powers? Is this something Dr. Kells is doing on her own? Is this her weird little experiment? Is there like some kind of organization behind it? Is it much older than we think? Like, was it around at the time of Mara's grandmother? Is that why the two of them are connected in some way? Oh, I didn't even entertain that possibility. Or is this a government thing again? I kind of want it to not be a government thing. There's a lot of ambiguity around there. To what extent is Horizons focused on the power? To what extent is Dr. Kells involved? To what extent is there anything else involved? Like, what's going on here? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? There's so many questions around it. So many questions just in general asked throughout this whole book. I'm thinking not all of them are going to be answered in that last book because there's too much. And I'm okay with some of it, but I think like Horizons and her and Noah's connection, the family thing, those two are really big, and I really need all of that cleared out. I have the list, right? A bit of a coincidence that Jamie, Noah, and Mara all have these abilities. A bit of a coinky-dink. Contradictions. That weird thing that we talked about earlier is suspected in Stella and Mara, not known in Jamie, not at all with Noah. Noah's is really confusing. It's testing all these different classes on him and he's unresponsive to all of them so far. Weird. So Noah seems to be different in some way. Like, why is Noah's list so different from everyone else's list? And what are these contradictions that Stella and Mara have? What's that about? I don't understand. They all have these side effects, right? Is that how they describe them? Side effects: occurring PTSD, hallucination, self-harm, possible schizophrenia/paranoid subtype, responsive to midazolam. That's the sedative. Contradiction suspected, NESS. Are these side effects of the trauma that they went through? Because my theory of why they all had these powers was that they all went through trauma. Noah saw his mum die. Mara was being sexually assaulted. Here's my question. Did the trauma come first? And these are side effects of the trauma, but the trauma was necessary to trigger this response out of them? Or are these direct side effects of powers? Are they directly linked and that trauma isn't even involved? Like, did Stella go through trauma? Did Jamie go through trauma in the same way these two did? Mara's also called a carrier original, whereas Jamie, it seems like, was induced. So it seems like his was brought out of him. Her purposefully. Stella, it seems like, isn't original because it just says origin unknown. So Noah and Mara are original carriers. Jamie suspected original. They don't know about Stella. What's that about? It seems really technical, and I wonder if this was a man-made thing done way back. Some kind of weird experiment that had happened way back, and this is like an old organization that has been going for a while now. Do we trust Kels? I don't think we do. I was wondering kind of before the last chapter. Obviously this is all very messed up, but is she genuinely trying to help? And she said to Mara, like, you're hurting your family, we're here to help you. And on the one hand, I could see that that ended up true, and that she could be trying to teach them to control their powers, but she's going about it so shady that I don't think that's what's happening. I think this is all a ruse of some kind of bigger plan, and she's going to kind of like convince Mara out of that whole incident that just happened and come up with some kind of cover story. It's weird how, like, Brooke and all these people, are they on board with it? Do they know what's going on? Megan and Adam, were they suspected to have it and they just didn't? I mean, it says non-carrier, so it seems like they knew they weren't. So do they just like intermingle them with other mentally ill people to, you know, because they said themselves that it's the perfect disguise because no one's going to question them, no one's going to believe them, no one's going to take them seriously. So is it a real mental hospital with real staff working there, and then some people are just in the know? What are they trying to do to them? What is their goal here? Do they want them to have powers? Do they not want them to have powers? I think that list of those names, that cleared up a lot for me, and that triggered so many theories. I mean, you heard. I'm assuming a lot of that will be cleared up in the Retribution of Mara Dyer, because Mara herself, like I said, she was pretty confused come the end. So a lot of this has to be cleared up. Seems like she lied in this truth. I hated the truth serum and how she was like, she couldn't move. It was just so frustrating. I hope this stuff doesn't continue too much in the next one, or it's gonna really bum me out. This is what I knew. I was trapped in my body, in my bed at that moment. But even as I looked out through the windows of my eyes, through the bars of my prison, I knew I wouldn't be trapped forever. They rattled my cage to see if I'd bite. When they released me, they'll see that the answer was yes. So good. And I love how it's like an animal metaphor, when just before this it was the dream where her grandmother released the animals from their cages. I'm so excited for the Retribution. I've heard a lot of mixed things, honestly, so I'm worried. I've heard some people really like it and some people really don't. Hoping that I'm gonna go in with an open mind and I'll be okay, as long as it's not too much of the stuff that frustrated me in here, that kind of made me anxious and stressed. But I really like this one in spite of all that. I don't think that has too much to do with the way that I would score this, the way that I would rate it. I think, like I said, that it just didn't have like the really big wow factor that I wanted, but it was really close. Solid 9 out of 10. Lots of things that we want to find out. The big ones are the families and the way they're connected, and then all that stuff with the genes, how she's in the asylum. I think that's everything. This has been a whole day of filming and my camera's about to die for like the 500th time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening / night. My name's Jade. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye! The wind had I getting too giddy. I need to calm down. This is
organizational.
Siri. And I used to kind of read them with the dust jacket on. And bubbles are flying past my window. They're trying to entertain the dog. Okay, Oh, no, we're not there yet. I've got, he seems very much, he seemed, oh, this has changed. Oops, get rid of that. What is wrong with me today? So much noise happening. There are people talking right below me. My dog is barking in the garden. My next door neighbor behind that has building things going on in the garden. Like I said, you know, how does she phrase it? Okay, she does it. I was wrong. In theory, could have been like another. Yeah.